Good evening. I am Toadflax of the Iron Shepherds, teller of gory stories and twisted tales, some true and some not so true. I have 3 stories for you, from near and far, and maybe far, far away, if you've time to listen. My first story begins not too far from where I'm sat, at Sizergh Castle, up near Leven's village. A long, long time ago, the Baron of Sizergh Castle was a big, mighty man, a fearsome warrior, and he was married to a most beautiful young wife, adorable. It so happened that one day the King of England sent word to the Baron of Sizergh Castle that England was at war with the wicked Scots, and the Baron was to arrange his armies and soldiers and to march north to invade Scotland. So the Baron did this. He prepared his soldiers, but he was in great worry, and on the very day of the departure, while his wife still slept, he called forth all of his servants at Sizergh Castle and told them, "When I leave to march against the wicked Scots, this is my instruction to you, my servants of the castle. My beloved, beautiful wife is not to leave this castle under any circumstances, or each and every one of you shall be punished." And he then gave them the key to his wife's bedroom. He left the castle, mounted his horse, rode off with all his armies towards the Scots border. Now all the servants got together. Oh, and they were in a dreadful state, for they knew the Baron of Sizergh Castle, and though he was a fair man, he was also very hard. And they worried that when his young wife woke up, she would be the mistress of the castle, and she would be able to order them here and there and everywhere, and they could not possibly stop her from leaving the castle. So they all resolved that while she still slept, they would creep up to her bedroom with the key that the Baron had given them, and they would lock her bedroom door. And no matter what she said, no matter what her protestation, they would not let her leave her bedroom, and then she could not leave the castle, and no harm would come to any servant once the Baron returned. And this is what they did. They crept up, they locked her bedroom door, and they all went about their business in the castle, all agreed amongst themselves that no matter what she said, they would not let her out. So when the lady of the castle woke, she called for her breakfast and her maids, but nobody came. She called again, and still nobody came. So up she jumped out of bed, as only a proper madam can do, and she stamped her foot on the floor, and she stamped it yet again, and she shouted, and she screamed for her maids to come and wait upon her. But still nobody came. Nobody came that day, or the day after, or the day after that. And by this time, the mistress of Sizergh Castle, the Baron's young beautiful wife, was so angry she was storming about her bedroom, screaming, shouting, banging on the door with her fists. Yet still nobody came after a whole week. And eventually, after having neither food nor water, within 10 days, she was so tired and exhausted of screaming and shouting that all she could do was lay on the floor by the great doors to her bedroom and scratch away to rouse attention. A month passed, 2 months, and the Baron of Sizergh Castle returned, victorious and bejewelled, with many gems given to him by the King of England in reward for his brilliant defeat of the wicked Scots. The Baron was so looking forward to seeing his young wife, he galloped ahead of his soldiers on his great horse, rode right up to the castle, jumped off, ran inside, called all his servants together, and then he said, "I hope my young wife has not left this castle, or there will be trouble for all of you." And the servants themselves, they answered meekly and honestly, "Dearest Baron of Sizergh Castle, your beloved wife, our adorable mistress, has not left this castle as you instructed. Here is the very key that you gave us to lock her bedroom, which we now return to you." And he, so eager to see his young wife, snatched up the key, ran up the stairs and unlocked the bedroom door, and then he found her emaciated body, skeletal in appearance, laying on the floor by the door, the skin wrapped and pulled tight across her skull, and all her fingernails broken off where she had scratched at the door with her last breath of life. And the Baron was so upset and angry with himself, for he knew what the servants had done. Yet he so loved his wife, he ran from the castle and he hanged himself from the first tree he came to. Now, over the years, the castle has had many owners, and rooms change. Bedrooms become bathrooms, lounges become libraries, and now nobody's quite sure which was the room where the Baron's wife died. Yet people at the castle say they can still hear footsteps from one of the rooms, which when searched for are found empty. And sometimes they've heard screaming and shouting of a woman in distress, and at other times they've heard the banging on the great door. And when it's really, really quiet, some say all they can hear is the scratch, scratch, scratch of fingernails upon wood. But don't let me put you off going to Sizergh Castle. It is a nice place to go. Now, for a second tale, I shall give you Reynard the Fox. Reynard the Fox was a most crafty creature, and one day he came out of the woods, the top of a hill, and he looked down the hill, and there at the bottom of the hill was a farm belonging to Constant, a very rich peasant. And in this farm there were many farm animals, but also many hens, plump and juicy, and one big cockerel. Well, Reynard the Fox fancied chicken for dinner, so off he trot towards the farm. He came to the farm yard, and he thought, rather than go in the main gate, lest he be seen by the farm's dogs and seized upon, he would creep in that he might pounce and seize one or two of the hens and make his escape into the woods. But the farmer had built his farmyard very well, for around it there were stout sticks of oak in lieu of a fence, and a hedge of thorns had been planted, which had grown big and wild. And poor Reynard could not get past the thorns, So he decided all he could do was to gingerly creep through the main gate. He looked, he saw no farm hounds, nobody about, but lots and lots of hens. And slowly he slinked through a cabbage patch, and there he lay in wait. And the hens, for their part, they thought they saw him moving, and they quickly scurried this way and that, and they took shelter under the thorny hedge, when who should come along but Chanticleer, the cockerel. All these hens were his wives, and he came cock-a-doodle-dooing into the farmyard. Quickly the hens shouted to him, "Oh, Chanticleer, Chanticleer, come to the hedge and save yourself. There is a wicked beast within the farmyard." Over he went to his most favourite hen wife called Pint, and asked her what was wrong. And she told him she had seen a great beast lurking amongst the cabbages, and she felt it was lying in wait. But Chanticleer was having none of it. "There's nothing to fear, good lady." And off he went, cock-a-doodle into the farmyard, looking this way and looking that, unconcerned whatsoever. It was a very warm day that day, so Chanticleer sat in the middle of the farmyard, rustled himself down, looked about him to the left and to the right, and slowly he fell asleep. And out of the cabbage patch, who should lurk and slink towards him but Reynard the fox himself. He came slowly and slowly, and padded just enough close that with one leap he could seize Chanticleer the cockerel. And when he looked round and was sure that there were no farm hounds about, then he leapt at Chanticleer. But Chanticleer, being only half asleep, heard him leap, and Chanticleer himself leaped out of his way and avoided his grasp. And then he turned and looked at Reynard the fox, and Reynard the fox looked at him. And Reynard, being very sly, "Oh, Chanticleer, Chanticleer, my old friend, how good it is to see you." And Chanticleer answered, "Oh, is it so good? Is it so good? You meant to seize me, did you, and run off with me to the woods to eat me? Well, I've avoided you, good fox, and I think I will avoid you again." But Reynard the fox, being ever so sly, "Oh," said Chanticleer, why would you think I would do such a thing? For you and I are cousins, don't you know? We are of the same flesh and blood. Why, I would rather lose one of my paws than hurt a hair on your head." Chanticleer was less than impressed. "Dearest cousin Reynard," says Chanticleer, "I am not convinced of your allegations of family kinship." Reynard then thought and then spoke. "Oh, but Chanticleer, do you not remember? I remember your father, Chanticleer. Oh, he was a great cockerel. Why, when he would sing, his voice would carry for miles and miles. He would close his eyes and trill his cheeping, how it was so melodious to the ears. Do you think you could possibly answer your father's gift?" And Chanticleer, who was so stung with pride, "Why, of course I could. I'm sure I could." So he brought himself up to his full height, closed one eye, fastened the other upon the fox, and then he sang his most melodious cheeping song. But Reynard said, "Oh, that was very good, Chanticleer, but wasn't as good as your father. Now, when he used to sing, he used to close both of his eyes, fill his chest, and his song came like honey from his mouth." And poor Chanticleer, his chest puffed up with pride, then filled his chest, closed his eyes and sang to his greatest extent, only to find that poor Reynard the fox had leapt upon him, fastened his teeth around his neck, and was now running out of the farmyard up the hill towards the woods. Poor Pint, his beloved henwife, and all the other hens, they ran out from the bush, screaming and shouting, flapping their little wings, which brought the attention of Constant, the rich peasant's wife, who saw what was happening. She raised the alarm. She shouted to her husband, Constant, a fox has taken our best cockerel. Constant, the peasant farmer, he shouted to his farm hands. They found the farmyard dogs and they unleashed them, and together in a group they ran up the hill, pursuing that wicked fox. The fox just laughed. He looked. He came upon the woods, and poor Chanticleer thought, my end is nigh unless I can think of something really, really good and quick. And then Chanticleer thought, oh, Sir Reynard, do you see those peasants coming up the hill? See how they shout abuse at you. Why don't you hurl abuse at them and tell them that no matter what they do, you will run off with their most choicest cockerel? And now it was poor Reynard, for as intelligent as a man may be, even the cleverest man may sometimes act a fool. And Reynard turned to the farmers and his wife and his farm hands and his dogs running up the hill to shout at them, run as fast as you will, people of two legs. I will escape into the woods, and I will be eating chicken tonight. And in that very moment of loosening his grip upon Chanticleer's neck, Chanticleer flapped his little wings as fast as he could and flew up onto the branch of an apple tree. Then looking down, he sang to poor Reynard the fox, oh, dearest cousin, who is the fool now? You best go before the farmer's dogs catch you. And Reynard looked up with a sorrowful, angry gaze, and all he could say was, the mouth that should have kept silent did not know what it said. And then he slunk off into the woods, hungry and disappointed and angry with himself. And old Chanticleer flaunted his way out of the woods, down the hill, and into the farmyard, and boasted to all of his hens' wives of his great adventure, and how he had outwitted Reynard the fox. Now the story I tell you now does not come from near, it does not come from far, but it does come from far, far away, from a very hot land, in the land of Iraq, not as it became later, a much troubled and torn and distressed land, but in the time of the caliphs, the princes of the faithful, the kings of Baghdad, and in the time of the greatest of them, and that was Harun al-Rashid. And in that time, this beloved time for the Muslim men, there lived a very rich farmer. He had a vast holding and lands and many servants and many animals, and he had a great big bull which he used to tie to a vast millstone, and the bull would work hard all day, going round and round, driving the millstone to grind the flour, to make the bread, to feed the farmer's family and his many servants. And he also had an ass, and the ass lived rather well. He lived on fresh hay, and he ate well-winnowed barley, and he used to carry his master here and there on occasion, but it was never much of a journey, never arduous, an easy life, not like the poor old bull. And one day the bull came back into the stable, and he saw the ass sat amongst all the fresh hay, eating the well-winnowed barley and said, "Oh, if only I had one day's rest from this fatigue and this worthless life." And the ass sat there looking, and he said, "Well, my friend, maybe this is what you should do. Tomorrow morning, when the farmhands come to get you and they feed you some beans before you start your long, arduous day, refuse to eat the beans, and then they will beat you to make you stand up. Refuse to get up, then they will beat you again, and that you will refuse to get up, and eventually when you stand, let yourself fall over, and they will see that you're really, really poorly, and maybe they'll give you a rest." But what the ass did not know, that the farmer had been blessed by Allah with many riches, this great farm, a beautiful wife, only the one, many servants, a fine family, and he had given him a great gift, for the farmer had the knowledge to understand the words of beasts and birds and animals, and he was stood near the stable, and he heard everything. So in the morning, when the farmhands came to him and said, "Oh, master, our great bull is ill. He won't eat his beans. We've beat him to get him to stand up. He stood up and then he fell over. What are we to do?" And the master simply said, "No problem. Go to the ass and tie the ass to the millstone and make him work on the millstone all day." And this is what was done. And at the end of the day, the poor ass returned to the stable, all sweaty and hard and exhausted. And the bull jumped up. "Oh, thank you, ass, my good friend. I have rested here all day in fresh hay. I've munched on well-winnowed barley. I feel so refreshed and invigorated from my hard day's labours." But the ass said nothing, but merely grumbled as he made his way to lay down to rest. And on the next day, yet again, the poor old ass was led from the stable to the millstone. He was tied to it, and he went round and round and round all day, grinding the flour. And when he returned at the end of the day, when night was dawning, there was the bull again, living well, who jumped up. "Oh, thank you, good ass, thank you. Another day's rest from all that worthless fatigue. I am so thankful. How can I ever repay you?" And the poor old ass, his back all but broken, his neck sore and red with the yoke around his neck, he looked at the bull and he said, "Well, I don't want to worry you or anything, but I heard the master say if that lazy bull doesn't work tomorrow, he's to be taken to the slaughterman and to be killed, and his hide used as a new tablecloth." And the bull heard this, and he quickly ate up all the food he could in the stable. That was for him. He even licked the stable clean. Now remember, the master was nearby, and he heard everything. So the next day the master got up very early. His wife came with him, and he said, "Dearest wife, come with me, let's go out into the field and let's just sit and wait." So his wife came with him, and they sat, and sure enough, they led out the bull, all suddenly recovered from his great illness. He rampaged here and there, swishing his tail, bellowing as loud as he could, jumping up and down to show the master how fit he was. And the master was so amused at this sudden turn of events in the bull's health that he fell down laughing. He could not control himself. And his wife said, "But why do you laugh so, my dear? What is this that makes you so funny and amused?" And the master said, "I cannot tell you, my dear. It is a gift from Allah. If I would tell you, I must surely die. And he continued laughing. But his wife, as only a wife can, was not much impressed with his answer, and she asked again, Why? Why can you not tell me this secret? Are you laughing at me? Is it me you're laughing at? And as only a wife can, she went on and on and on, saying, Tell me your secret, tell me your secret, tell me your secret, tell me your secret, tell me your secret. Until eventually the master grew so weary, he agreed that he would tell her his secret, even though it would cost him his life. And so he arranged for the Cadi, the magistrate, to come to the farm to listen to him while he made his will. And he arranged for all the wife's relatives to come to the farm, and he explained that he had a great secret that his wife insisted he must tell him, and he could not go on any more with the constant nagging, and that if he told his wife the secret, it must surely cost him his life. And the wife's relatives went to the wife and said, How can you do this? How can you put this upon your poor husband who treats you so well? But as only a wife can, she said, Not interested, not listening. He's going to tell me everything because I am his wife. So the master walked into the farmyard to compose himself before he went to the Cadi, the magistrate, to make his will, and then to tell his wife everything, and then to surely die as he thought. And it was at this time the farmyard cockerel leapt onto a fence and jumped about, cock-a-doodle-doo. And one of the farm dogs went up to him and said, Cockerel, Cockerel, how can you make so merry on a day like this? Do you not know our master dies this day? And the cockerel turned to the dog and said, How so? Tell me everything. And the dog did tell everything about the wife nagging the farmer, the secret that he had that he could not tell under pain of his own death. And the cockerel was unimpressed at all. He flapped his little wings, he cock-a-doodle-dooed, and he turned to the dog and he said, Now look, that master has but one wife. I have 50 hens as my wives. I keep order in my wife all the time. On a day I might scold the first and be loving to the second. On the next day I am loving to the first and I scold the second. In this way I keep order in my house. What the master should do is cut some mulberry bushes, hide them about himself, take his wife into his personal private chamber, ask her to repent of asking his secret, and if she does not repent, he must take the mulberry sticks and beat her until she repents or she dies. This is what the master should do. Now remember, the master was there in the farmyard and he heard everything. So he went out to the bushes, cut some mulberry bushes, put the sticks together, tied them together, hid them about his person, called for his dearest wife and said, Dearest wife, before I tell you my secret, and I must surely die, please come with me into my private chamber. And so they went into the farmhouse, into the master's private chamber, and the master said to his beloved wife, Dearest wife, please repent and do not ask me any more about this great secret. And she answered, as only a wife can, Shan't. You shall tell me, though it cost you your life. Then the master drew forth the mulberry bushes, the sticks, and he beat her and beat her and beat her and beat her. And he kept on beating her until she repented of ever asking him that secret, or any other for that matter. The master lifted up his wife and he went out to his friends and family and the Cadi and the magistrate, and he told them how his beloved wife has repented. She was not going to ask his secret, and he would not have to die for revealing it. And all were joyous and all lived happily ever after until the end of their days. And these are the 3 stories that I, Toadflax, have tell you that you might enjoy.